What lies beneath Europa's ice? Far from Earth, far beyond the warm blue world we call home, there is a small moon circling Jupiter. At first glance, it does not look like a place that should hold a secret. It looks frozen, pale, silent. A bright, icy sphere moving through the darkness around the largest planet in our solar system. Its name is Europa, and beneath its cracked surface of ice, scientists believe there may be an ocean. Not a small lake, not a thin layer of melted frost, but a deep, global ocean of salty water, hidden under a shell of ice, wrapped around the entire moon, like a dark sea beneath a frozen sky. Tonight, we are going there. Not quickly, not with noise or urgency, but slowly, calmly, as if drifting through space in a dream. We will leave Earth behind. We will cross the quiet distance between the inner planets and the realm of Jupiter. We will watch the sun grow smaller. We will see the giant planet rise ahead of us, banded with clouds, turning slowly in the dark. And then, near that enormous world, we will find Europa, small, bright, and strange. A moon covered in ice. A moon marked with long reddish cracks. A moon that may have more water than all the oceans of Earth. And the question waiting beneath everything is simple. Could a place like this hold the ingredients for life? Europa does not promise an answer. It does not reveal itself easily. Its ocean, if we could reach it, would not glitter beneath an open sky. It would not have sunlight dancing on waves. It would not have blue horizons, seabirds, clouds, or tides rolling onto a shore. It would be sealed away, hidden beneath miles of ice, dark, cold, pressurized, ancient. And yet, that hidden ocean may be one of the most important places humans have ever wondered about. Because life, as we understand it, needs certain things. It needs water. It needs chemistry. It needs energy. On Earth, life fills oceans, caves, deserts, ice sheets, and even places where sunlight never reaches. Deep beneath our own seas, around hot vents on the ocean floor, living things survive in darkness, using chemical energy instead of sunlight. So when scientists look at Europa, they do not see only a frozen moon. They see a possibility. They see ice that may hide water. They see cracks that may tell a story. They see Jupiter's gravity pulling and squeezing this small world, perhaps creating heat deep inside it. And they see a place where an ocean may have been waiting for billions of years. Imagine it now. Europa hangs in space, quiet and bright, while Jupiter fills the sky nearby. The giant planet turns with slow bands of cream, amber, rust, and white. Storms larger than Earth move across its atmosphere. Its magnetic field stretches far into space. Its moons orbit around it like small worlds caught in a powerful rhythm. And there, among them, Europa circles again and again. From far away, it looks smooth. But as we come closer, the surface begins to change. The ice is not clean and empty. It is crossed by long lines, reddish-brown and uneven, stretching across the moon like old scars. Some lines run for hundreds of miles. Some overlap. Some curve and split, as if the ice has been pulled apart and sealed again. These marks are not decorations. They are clues. They suggest that Europa's surface has moved, cracked, shifted, and changed. They suggest that the ice may not be dead and still, but part of a world with motion beneath it. And that is where our journey begins. Not on the surface alone, but beneath it. Beneath the frozen plains, beneath the red cracks, beneath the silence. Somewhere below that ice, there may be an ocean that has never seen the sun. An ocean locked away from the open sky. An ocean where darkness is not temporary, but permanent. And if we listen to this story slowly enough, if we follow each clue one by one, Europa becomes more than a moon. it becomes a question. A quiet question moving around Jupiter. What if, beneath that frozen shell, there is a sea? What if that sea has chemistry? What if it has energy? And what if, in the darkness below the ice, the universe has found another way to keep something alive? Tonight, we will not rush toward the answer. We will drift toward it. Step by step, mile by mile. From Earth to Jupiter. From Jupiter to Europa. From Europa's surface to the ice below. And then, deeper still, into the hidden ocean beneath. Before we can reach Europa, we must first leave Earth. And for a moment, there is no need to think about Jupiter, or ice, or hidden oceans. There is only this first quiet step away from home. Imagine yourself rising gently above the night side of Earth. Below you, cities glow like warm constellations scattered across continents. Roads become thin golden threads. Coastlines curve softly beneath clouds. Oceans stretch into darkness, reflecting only the faintest silver light. The world that once felt enormous begins to look small, delicate, and calm. From up here, Earth is not loud. The traffic is gone. The voices are gone. The restless movement of daily life fades into silence. There is only a blue planet turning slowly beneath a thin veil of atmosphere, wrapped in white clouds and soft darkness. This is where every human story has taken place. Every ocean we have crossed, every mountain we have climbed, every question we have asked about the stars, every dream of another world began here, on this small blue sphere, circling an ordinary star. And now, slowly, we begin to drift away. The curve of Earth grows clearer. The atmosphere becomes a pale blue line, so thin it almost seems fragile. Beneath it are storms, forests, deserts, cities, rivers, and seas. But from this distance, they all blend together into one living world. Earth does not disappear all at once. It lingers. It follows behind us, bright and familiar, as if reminding us that every journey into the unknown begins with something we already know. The moon appears nearby, gray and quiet, keeping its ancient company with Earth. Its surface is still, marked by craters and plains, a reminder that silence is not empty. Silence can hold history. Silence can hold memory. We pass the moon slowly, not as a spacecraft racing through a mission timeline, but as a thought drifting through the dark. The moon falls behind. Earth becomes smaller. The sun shines ahead, still bright, still warm, but the space around us begins to open. There is a special kind of quiet beyond Earth. It is not the quiet of a bedroom at night, or the quiet of snow falling in a forest. It is deeper than that. It is the quiet of distance, the quiet of worlds separated by millions of miles, the quiet of light traveling for minutes, then hours, across the emptiness between planets. And in that quiet, the mind begins to slow down. The concerns of Earth begin to soften. The day becomes smaller. The noise becomes smaller. Even time feels different. Out here, there are no clocks on the walls, no streets, no windows lit by morning, no footsteps in the hallway. There is only motion, steady and silent, through the dark sea of space. Ahead of us lies the outer solar system, beyond Mars, beyond the scattered stones of the asteroid belt, beyond the region where sunlight still feels familiar. Somewhere out there, Jupiter waits. And around Jupiter, moving through a powerful field of gravity and radiation, Europa circles in silence. But we are not there yet. For now, we are still leaving home. We look back once more. Earth is smaller now, a blue and white marble resting in blackness. It looks peaceful from here, whole, undivided, a single world beneath a single atmosphere. It is easy to forget, from the ground, that Earth is also a planet. It is also a world in space. It, too, is floating in darkness. It, too, carries oceans beneath clouds and life beneath sky. And perhaps that is why Europa calls to us so quietly. Because when we look at Europa, we are not only looking for something alien, we are also looking for something familiar. Water, chemistry, energy, the same simple ingredients that shaped life on Earth may, in some hidden way, exist far from the sun, beneath the ice of a moon. That thought travels with us as Earth fades behind, not as a loud promise, not as a certainty, only as a question quiet enough for the dark. Could another ocean, far away from our own, hold the conditions for life? The spacecraft of imagination continues forward. There is no shaking, no sudden burst of speed, no dramatic fire, only a steady glide away from the blue planet, into the deep black between worlds. The sun is still behind us now, casting long invisible paths of light across the solar system. Every planet is moving in its own orbit. Every moon is circling its parent world. Every object, from the smallest dust grain to the largest gas giant, is following gravity's patient design. And we are following one path in particular, a path outward, toward Jupiter, toward Europa, toward the frozen moon with a possible ocean beneath its skin. As Earth becomes only a bright point behind us, we carry one image forward, the oceans of our home planet, blue and open beneath the sky. The Pacific, the Atlantic, the quiet polar seas, the deep trenches where sunlight never reaches. On Earth, water is visible everywhere. It falls as rain, freezes as snow, gathers in lakes, carves rivers, and moves in tides beneath the pull of the moon. But on Europa, the ocean does not reveal itself so easily. There are no blue waves from space, no clouds forming above warm currents, no shorelines, no islands, only ice, only cracks, only a frozen surface hiding what may be one of the most mysterious seas in the solar system. And so we continue. The blue Earth fades. The moon becomes a pale memory. The inner solar system grows quiet behind us. Ahead, the darkness deepens. The sunlight grows softer, and somewhere far away, beyond millions of miles of empty space, a small icy moon continues to circle Jupiter, holding its secret beneath the ice. Between Earth and Jupiter, space becomes wide enough to change the way we imagine distance. On Earth, distance is measured in roads, oceans, flight paths, and hours. A faraway city may take a day to reach. A mountain may take many days to climb. An ocean may take a long flight to cross. But out here, between the planets, distance becomes something quieter. It is measured in light, in silence, in the long, patient motion of worlds. As we drift farther from Earth, the inner solar system begins to fall behind us. Venus, hidden closer to the sun, shines somewhere far away in the brightness we have left behind. Mercury moves in its tight, hot orbit near the solar glare. Earth is now only a point of blue light, carrying every familiar sound and every familiar sea into the distance. Ahead of us, Mars waits for a while. The red planet appears not as a destination tonight, but as a quiet landmark on the way outward. Its dusty plains, dry riverbeds, frozen poles, and ancient volcanoes pass below the path of imagination. Mars is a world that once may have had flowing water on its surface, a world that still keeps traces of a wetter past, locked in stone and ice. For a moment, it reminds us of what we are really searching for. Water changes the way we look at worlds. A dry planet can still be beautiful. A frozen moon can still be bright. A gas giant can still be magnificent. But when scientists find evidence of water, especially liquid water, the question always deepens. Water invites possibility. not always in visible forms, but in rivers, ice, hot springs, deep oceans, caves, and underground cracks, life has shown a remarkable ability to survive. And so, as Mars drifts behind us, the question of Europa grows stronger. What kind of ocean could exist so far from the sun? How can water remain liquid beneath a moon covered in ice? What moves below Europa's frozen surface? The answers are still far ahead. For now, we continue outward. Past the orbit of Mars, the solar system becomes less familiar. The warmth of the sun no longer feels close. Its light still reaches us, of course. The sun still dominates everything with gravity, but its presence becomes gentler, smaller, more distant. The darkness around us deepens. The spaces between objects grow larger. The journey becomes quieter. Soon, we approach the asteroid belt, a broad region between Mars and Jupiter where countless rocky bodies orbit the sun. In stories, it is sometimes imagined as a crowded field of tumbling stones, but in reality, the asteroid belt is mostly empty space. The distances between objects are vast. A spacecraft can pass through this region without weaving through boulders like an obstacle course. Most of the time, there is nothing nearby at all. Only darkness, only stars. Only the faint movement of distant rocks following ancient orbits. Some asteroids are small, no larger than hills. Some are much bigger, shaped like miniature worlds. They are leftovers from the early solar system, pieces that never became a planet. Quiet fragments from the time when the sun and planets were still forming from a cloud of gas and dust. As we pass through this region, it is easy to imagine the solar system not as a finished machine, but as a memory of formation. Every planet was once part of a disk of material around the young sun. Every moon, every ring, every cratered stone has a history older than human language. Europa, too, belongs to this ancient story. It was born in the realm of Jupiter, shaped by gravity, ice, rock, and time. It did not become a warm blue world like Earth. It did not grow into a red desert like Mars. It became something different, a small, icy moon, close enough to Jupiter to be pulled by its gravity, but cold enough on the surface to preserve a frozen shell. A world with a locked face of ice. And perhaps, beneath that ice, a hidden sea. We move on. The asteroid belt fades behind us. The sun is smaller now. Its light no longer fills space with the same familiar warmth. It becomes a bright star behind us, still powerful, still central, but no longer comforting in the way it feels from Earth. Ahead, one object grows brighter. At first, Jupiter is just a point, a steady light among the stars. But unlike the stars, Jupiter is near enough to grow. Slowly, across the long hours of the journey, the point becomes a disk. The disk becomes a world, and the world becomes something enormous. Even before we reach it, Jupiter changes the feeling of space. It is not just a planet, it is the great center of its own system. A giant world with dozens of moons, rings too faint to see easily, a powerful magnetic field, and storms that have lasted longer than human civilizations. To approach Jupiter is to approach a solar system within the solar system. And Europa is part of that smaller kingdom. It moves around Jupiter along with other great moons, Io, volcanic and restless, Ganymede, larger than the planet Mercury, Callisto, ancient and heavily cratered, and Europa, the bright ice-covered world whose surface seems young, cracked, and mysterious. Each moon tells a different story. Io tells a story of fire. Ganymede tells a story of size and magnetism. Callisto tells a story of age and impact scars. Europa tells a story of ice and water. A story hidden below the surface. The closer we come to Jupiter, the more we begin to feel the scale of the place we are entering. The giant planet pulls everything around it into motion. Its gravity shapes the paths of its moons. Its radiation fills the space nearby. Its presence is so large that even a small moon like Europa cannot be understood alone. Europa is not simply floating in empty darkness. It is part of a rhythm. It circles Jupiter again and again, passing through gravitational forces that gently flex its interior. It is influenced by the pull of nearby moons. It is held in an orbital dance that may help keep its hidden ocean from freezing solid. This is one of the great mysteries of Europa. The surface is cold enough to be ice, but the inside may be warm enough, in the right places, for liquid water to remain. Not because Europa is close to the sun. It is not. Not because the surface is mild. It is not. But because gravity itself can become a source of heat. We will come back to that soon. For now, Jupiter grows larger ahead. The stars around it seem to become quieter, as if the entire scene is preparing for the arrival of a giant. The planet's pale bands begin to show. Soft creams and browns appear across its face. The dark lines of cloud belts stretch from one side to the other. A slow rotation carries storms across its atmosphere. And somewhere nearby, still almost hidden by the scale of Jupiter, Europa continues its orbit. Small, bright, frozen, waiting. We are leaving behind the quiet highway between planets and entering the realm of the giant. Soon, Jupiter will fill our view. Soon, its moons will become visible as moving worlds instead of points of light. And soon, among them, we will find the icy moon we came to visit. The journey across the solar system is almost complete. But the real descent has not yet begun. Jupiter does not arrive all at once. At first, it is only a bright point in the distance, steady and pale against the blackness. Then it becomes a small disk, then a larger one. Slowly, as the miles fall away behind us, the largest planet in the solar system begins to reveal itself. It grows until it no longer feels like a point we are traveling toward. It feels like a world rising out of the dark. Jupiter fills more and more of the view, wrapped in soft bands of cloud. Cream, amber, rust, white, and brown drift around the planet in long horizontal streams. These are not solid surfaces. They are weather. They are layers of gas and storm, moving at enormous speeds, forming patterns that have been watched from Earth for centuries. There is no ground to stand on here, no rocky plains, no frozen shore, no ocean surface beneath a blue sky. Jupiter is a giant atmosphere, deep and powerful, with clouds stacked over clouds, winds racing in opposite directions, and storms large enough to swallow entire planets. And yet from this distance, it does not need to feel violent. It can feel slow. It can feel ancient, like a sleeping giant turning in the dark. The great red spot drifts into view, a storm wider than Earth, circling inside Jupiter's atmosphere like an old wound in the clouds. It has been observed for hundreds of years, though it has changed over time, shrinking and shifting, still alive in the planet's restless weather. But tonight, we do not rush past it. We simply watch. The storm turns with the planet. The cloud bands slide beside it. The whole world rotates with calm, immense power. Jupiter is so large that everything near it feels changed by its presence. Its gravity is not just a number in a textbook. It is the reason this place exists the way it does. It holds dozens of moons in orbit. It shapes their paths. It pulls on them, tugs at them, keeps them locked in a dance that has continued for billions of years. Around Jupiter, the solar system seems to gather into a smaller version of itself, a giant planet at the center, moons moving like worlds around it. Faint rings, too thin and dark to dominate the view, a magnetic field stretching far into space. radiation belts surrounding the planet like an invisible ocean of charged particles. This is not a quiet place in a physical sense. Jupiter's environment is intense. Its magnetic field is powerful. Its radiation can be harsh. Its storms are enormous. Its gravity rules everything nearby. But from the perspective of our journey, there is still a deep and steady calm in watching it from afar. Because Jupiter moves with patience. It does not hurry. It turns. It pulls. It holds. And within its realm, Europa circles quietly. Before we find Europa, we can notice the other great moons moving through the darkness. These are the Galilean moons, first seen by Galileo in 1610, when a small telescope revealed that not everything in the sky revolved around Earth. That discovery changed the way humans understood the universe. It showed that worlds could orbit other worlds, and that Earth was not the center of all motion. Tonight, those moons are more than historical points of light. They are places. Io moves closest among the 4 large moons, a world of fire and volcanic activity, constantly flexed by Jupiter's gravity. Its surface is reshaped by eruptions, sulfur, heat, and motion. Farther out is Ganymede, the largest moon in the solar system, bigger than Mercury, with its own magnetic field and a surface marked by ancient terrain. Callisto moves even farther away, dark and heavily cratered, holding a record of impacts from the deep past. And then there is Europa, smaller than Earth's moon, brighter than many worlds because of its icy surface, smooth from far away, cracked from close up, a frozen moon that may hide an ocean beneath its shell. Jupiter makes Europa possible in the form we know it. Without Jupiter, Europa would not be Europa. The giant planet's gravity guides its orbit. Its pull affects the moon's interior. Its presence helps create the tidal forces that may keep Europa from becoming completely frozen all the way through. This is one of the first knots in the mystery. How can a moon, so far from the sun, have liquid water beneath its ice? The answer begins here, with Jupiter. Not with warmth from sunlight, not with a gentle surface climate, but with gravity. As Europa travels around Jupiter, it does not move in perfect isolation. It is pulled by the giant planet. It is also influenced by neighboring moons. These gravitational interactions can slightly stretch and squeeze Europa over time. That flexing may create heat inside the moon, enough to help maintain a deep ocean beneath the frozen surface. It is not a warm world in the way Earth is warm. It is not comfortable. It is not open to the sky. But it may be active below. A frozen surface above, a hidden ocean below, and between them, a story written by gravity. Jupiter turns slowly ahead, and as we watch it, we begin to understand why Europa cannot be separated from this giant planet. The moon's mystery is not only inside Europa, it is also in the relationship between Europa and Jupiter. A small moon, a massive planet, a repeated pull, a quiet heat, a possible ocean. This is the rhythm of the place we are entering. The view shifts now. Jupiter remains enormous in the background, but our attention moves away from the cloud bands and storms. We begin to look for something smaller, something pale and bright moving through the planet's vast neighborhood. At first, Europa appears only as a white point near the edge of Jupiter's glow. Then it becomes a small disk. Then a world. Not colorful like Jupiter. Not red like Mars. Not blue like Earth. Europa is pale, icy, and marked by thin lines that look almost delicate from far away. But those lines are the beginning of another question. They are the surface signs of a world that may be moving beneath its frozen skin. Jupiter remains behind it, vast and watchful, filling the sky like a silent guardian. Europa moves ahead. And now, after crossing the quiet solar system and entering the realm of the giant, we finally approach the moon we came to see. The ocean is still hidden, the ice is still sealed, but the surface is coming closer, and every mile brings us nearer to the cracks. At first, Europa looks almost too small to hold such a large mystery. Against the enormous face of Jupiter, it appears delicate, a bright moon moving through the shadow and light of a giant world. Jupiter is so vast that Europa seems almost like a snowflake drifting beside a storm. A pale point, a quiet companion, a frozen body caught in a powerful orbit. But size can be misleading. Some worlds reveal their secrets through mountains, storms, oceans, and continents. Others hide them under surfaces that appear simple from far away. Europa is one of those worlds. As we approach, the moon grows from a point of light into a sphere. Its surface is bright, reflecting the distant sun from a shell of ice. It is not perfectly white. It has soft tones of cream, gray, and pale yellow. And crossing that icy brightness are long reddish lines, thin at first, then sharper as we come closer. These lines are the first thing that makes Europa feel alive in a quiet way, not alive like Earth, with forests, clouds, rivers, and blue seas. Not alive like Io, with volcanoes throwing material into space, but alive in the sense that its surface has a history, a surface that has been pulled, broken, shifted, opened, closed again. The closer we come, the less Europa looks like a smooth ball of ice. It becomes a place of patterns. Long cracks stretch across the moon in tangled paths. Some lines are almost straight, running for hundreds of miles. Others curve gently, crossing one another like old roads on a frozen map. There are few large mountains here, few deep impact craters compared with many other moons. That matters. A surface covered in ancient craters usually tells us that it has remained mostly unchanged for a very long time. But Europa's surface looks different. It appears geologically young compared with many other icy bodies in the outer solar system. The ice has been changed, resurfaced, and disrupted over time. Something has been happening here, and that something may begin below. Europa is one of Jupiter's 4 largest moons, but it is smaller than Earth's moon. If you placed it beside our moon, Europa would look slightly smaller, smoother, and brighter. Yet beneath that smaller surface may be an ocean so large that it could contain more water than all the oceans on Earth combined. This is the strange contrast that makes Europa so compelling. A small moon, a thin, frozen face, a possible ocean hidden around the entire world. From space, we cannot see that ocean directly. We cannot look down and find blue water shining between clouds. There are no weather systems to trace, no open seas, no coastlines, no polar caps floating on liquid. Europa shows us ice, only ice. But the ice is not silent in the scientific sense. It speaks through its shapes. The cracks suggest stress. The ridges suggest movement. The reddish material along the surface suggests that the ice may contain salts, minerals, or other compounds altered by Jupiter's radiation. The surface is like a sealed letter, not easy to open, but covered with clues. And as we drift closer, Europa begins to feel less like a distant object and more like a destination. Imagine the view now. Jupiter hangs behind and above, huge enough to dominate the sky. Its cloud bands move in slow rotation, a soft, enormous backdrop of amber and cream. Europa turns beneath us, quiet and pale, its icy surface catching the weak sunlight of the outer solar system. The sun from here is much smaller than it appears from Earth. It is still bright, still the center of gravity for the planets, but its warmth is faint. Europa's surface is extremely cold. Any water exposed here would quickly freeze. The ice is hard, ancient, and silent beneath the vacuum of space. There is almost no atmosphere to soften the view, no blue sky, no sound of wind, no drifting clouds. The stars do not twinkle here. They burn steadily in the blackness, because there is no thick air to bend their light. And there, beneath those stars, Europa carries its hidden question. Could a dark ocean exist below this frozen ground? For a long time, humans could only wonder about Europa from far away. Through telescopes, it was a tiny point near Jupiter. Later, spacecraft gave us closer views. They showed a surface unlike the cratered, lifeless faces of many other moons. They revealed a world covered in lines, ridges, and strange broken regions of ice. Those images changed Europa from a point of light into a place. And places invite stories. They invite questions. What made these cracks? How thick is the ice? Does the ocean touch the rocky mantle below? Could chemicals from the surface find their way downward? Could energy from Jupiter's tidal pull keep the interior warm enough for water to remain liquid? Could life exist in darkness, not on the surface, but below? Each question leads to another. That is the power of Europa. It does not give us one mystery. It gives us layers. The first layer is what we can see, the bright frozen surface. The second layer is what the surface suggests, movement, stress, change. The third layer is what may lie underneath, a shell of ice, perhaps miles thick. And the deepest layer is the ocean itself, dark, salty, hidden, and possibly ancient. Tonight, we follow those layers slowly. We do not need to solve Europa all at once. We only need to move closer. From orbit, the surface seems peaceful. But peaceful does not mean simple. A frozen world can hold motion below. A quiet moon can carry a deep internal rhythm. An ocean can exist without ever reflecting a sunrise. Europa reminds us that the most interesting places are not always the loudest ones. Sometimes, a world whispers. Sometimes, it hides its most important truth under ice. As we descend toward the surface, the reddish cracks become clearer. They are no longer thin marks on a distant sphere. They become wide bands and broken lanes across the ice. Some areas look smooth and pale. Others look disrupted, as if pieces of the surface once shifted, floated, or froze into new positions. The terrain is unfamiliar, but not meaningless. It suggests a world where the outer shell may have been renewed, a world where the ice may move over long spans of time, a world where the surface and the hidden interior may be connected in ways we do not yet fully understand. And this is where Europa becomes more than beautiful. It becomes important. Because if the ocean below can interact with the surface above, then Europa may have a way to mix ingredients. Radiation from Jupiter changes chemicals on the icy surface. Cracks and movement may help some of that material travel downward. At the same time, the rocky interior below the ocean may provide minerals and chemical energy. Water, chemistry, energy. 3 simple words. But together, they form the reason Europa matters. Not because we know there is life there. We do not. Not because the surface looks inviting. It does not. But because this small moon may have the basic conditions that make us wonder whether life could exist somewhere beyond Earth. And as our imaginary path brings us lower, the surface begins to fill the view. The horizon curves gently. Jupiter rises above it, enormous and silent. The ice stretches in every direction. White plains, reddish lines, blue-gray shadows. A world with no trees, no waves, no rain, and no open air. A frozen shore above a sea we cannot see. Soon, we will stand on that shore. We will look across the icy plain. We will feel the silence of a world where no human has ever walked. and we will begin to ask what the surface itself can tell us about the ocean below. Europa is no longer a point of light. It is no longer only a moon beside Jupiter. It is the place beneath us now. A world of ice, a world of cracks, a world holding its secret below. Now, imagine the descent slowing. Europa no longer fills only the view ahead. It becomes the world beneath us. The curve of the moon stretches from horizon to horizon, pale and frozen under the distant sun. The surface rises closer, not with forests or mountains, not with oceans shining in daylight, but with ice. A vast, quiet shell of ice, marked by long reddish lines and faint blue shadows. There is no soft landing place in the familiar sense. No grass, no dust blowing in the wind, no sound of air moving over stone. Europa has only a very thin atmosphere, far too thin to breathe, far too thin to carry weather the way Earth does. If you could stand here in a protective suit, the silence would be almost complete. Not peaceful in the way a forest is peaceful, not peaceful in the way a beach is peaceful. This is a silence without birds, without waves, without leaves, without clouds. A silence made of vacuum, ice, and distance. The surface comes closer until individual features begin to appear. The ground is not perfectly smooth. It is crossed by ridges, shallow troughs, broken patches, and long bands of darker material. Some regions look like plates of ice that have shifted against one another. Others look as if the surface was once cracked open, then frozen shut again. We settle gently onto an icy plain, and for the first time in this journey, we are no longer looking at Europa from far away. We are standing on it. Above us, the sky is black, not dark blue, not purple, not filled with clouds, black. The stars are sharp and steady, shining without twinkling, because there is almost no atmosphere to disturb their light. The sun is smaller than it appears from Earth, a bright, distant lamp rather than a warm presence. Its light reaches Europa, but its heat is weak. The surface remains intensely cold, locked in ice. And then there is Jupiter, huge, bright, unmistakable. It hangs in the sky like an enormous painted world, banded with cream and amber clouds. From Europa, Jupiter would dominate the view in a way no object dominates Earth's sky. It would not be a small disk like our moon. It would be vast, powerful, and close, filling the sky with slow motion. Its cloud bands turn. Its storms drift. Its gravity holds Europa in place. And beneath your feet, the ice remembers that pull. The ground itself is pale, but not empty. It has color in subtle layers: white ice, gray-blue shadows, yellowish patches, reddish-brown lines running across the surface like frozen rivers without water. These lines are among the most striking features of Europa. They stretch over enormous distances, sometimes crossing and overlapping, sometimes branching apart. From orbit, they looked delicate. From the surface, they feel immense. A line that looked thin from space could be a wide band of rough terrain beneath your feet. A crack could stretch beyond the horizon. A ridge could rise gently, like a frozen seam where the surface has been pushed together or pulled apart. There is no ocean visible here. That is what makes Europa so strange. On Earth, oceans announce themselves. They move, they shine, they shape the air, they bring clouds, rain, coastlines, storms, and tides. If you stand near an ocean on Earth, you know it is there before you see it. You smell salt. You hear waves. You feel moisture in the wind. On Europa, if an ocean exists below, it gives almost nothing away directly. No sound rises from beneath the ice. No spray reaches the surface. No blue water breaks the horizon. The ocean is hidden, sealed, buried under a frozen roof that may be many miles thick. And yet, the surface seems to hint at it everywhere. The cracks, the ridges, the strange disrupted regions, the relative lack of large ancient craters. All of these suggest that Europa's surface has been changed over time. It may not be an old, dead crust left untouched for billions of years. It may be a shell that has flexed, fractured, and renewed itself in response to forces below and around it. You begin to walk slowly across the ice. Each step is imaginary, but the landscape is built from real clues. The plain ahead is wide and open. The horizon curves softly because Europa is small compared with Earth. The black sky meets the pale ground in a clean, silent line. Jupiter remains above, so large that it seems to watch the surface from every direction. The reddish bands become the path. They are not bright red like fresh paint. They are softer, more brown, more rust-colored, mixed with the pale ice around them. Scientists are still studying what gives them their color, but they may contain salts or other compounds changed by the harsh radiation environment around Jupiter. That radiation makes Europa's surface a difficult place. Not gentle, not protected like Earth. Jupiter's magnetic field traps charged particles, and Europa moves through this intense environment again and again. The uppermost ice is constantly exposed to radiation. Molecules on the surface can be broken apart and altered. Chemicals can be transformed. For life as we know it, the surface is not the most welcoming place. But this is another knot in Europa's mystery. Because what is harsh above might still become useful below. If radiation changes chemicals on the surface, and if some of those altered materials can move downward through cracks or mixing in the ice, they might eventually reach the hidden ocean. There, far below the dangerous surface, they could become part of a chemical environment more interesting than the surface alone. This is not a promise of life. It is only a possibility. But Europa is built from possibilities, layered one over another. A cold surface, a cracked shell, a hidden ocean, a rocky interior, a giant planet pulling from above, a chemical story we do not yet know how to read completely. As you move across the frozen plain, the idea of depth becomes more important than the idea of distance. On Earth, when we travel, we often move across the surface of things, across cities, across oceans, across continents. But on Europa, the real journey is downward. The surface is only the first page. It is the cover of the book. The story is beneath. Still, we must not rush away from the ice too quickly. The surface is the only part of Europa we can see clearly. It is the record of everything hidden below. Every ridge, every crack, every broken plate may carry a hint of motion inside the moon. You pause near a long fracture. It stretches in both directions until it disappears over the curve of the world. The ice along it appears darker, stained with reddish material. The edges seem uneven, as if the crust was once disturbed here. Perhaps the ice opened. Perhaps material rose. Perhaps the surface shifted. Perhaps the cracks sealed again over time. We do not know the full story yet. But we know enough to keep asking. And in a sleep journey like this one, the unanswered parts are not interruptions. They are part of the calm. They let the mind drift from fact into wonder, and from wonder back into fact. Europa's surface is not dramatic in the way of volcanoes or canyons. It is quiet. But quiet does not mean simple. It is a frozen landscape full of clues. A place where the sky is black, the sun is distant, Jupiter is enormous, and the ground beneath your feet may be floating above a moon-wide sea. If you could kneel and place a gloved hand on the ice, you would be touching the outer shell of one of the most intriguing worlds in the solar system. Below that hand, perhaps many miles down, there may be water. Below that water, perhaps a rocky seafloor. And somewhere between ice, ocean, stone, chemistry, and heat, there may be answers to questions humans have carried for a very long time. Are we alone? Can life begin in darkness? Can a frozen moon far from the sun still hold a hidden place where the ingredients of life come together? For now, Europa gives no sound, only the silent surface, only the red cracks, only the giant planet above, and the feeling that the ice beneath us is not the end of the journey. It is the doorway. Across Europa's surface, the red cracks are the first signs that the ice has a story. They run across the moon in long, winding paths, crossing pale plains and broken regions, stretching farther than the eye could follow from the ground. Some are narrow and delicate, others form wider bands, darker than the ice around them, with edges that seem disturbed, folded, or pushed apart. From far above, they look like thin lines drawn across a white sphere. From the surface, they would feel more like landscapes. A single line could become a wide scar in the ice, a region of rough ground where the frozen shell has been stressed and changed. It might rise into ridges. It might sink into shallow valleys. It might carry darker material that has been altered by radiation, chemistry, and time. And this is where Europa begins to feel less like a solid ball of frozen water and more like a world with layers. The ice is not simply a lid. It may be a moving shell. Slowly, over long periods of time, Europa's outer crust may bend, crack, shift, and renew itself. Not quickly, not in a way a person standing there could easily watch, but over geological time, under the patient pull of Jupiter's gravity. On Earth, ice can move too. Glaciers slide down mountains. Ice sheets flow under their own weight. Frozen surfaces crack and refreeze. Sea ice breaks apart, drifts, and joins together again. But Europa's ice is different. It is not floating beneath an open sky on a warm planet. It is the outer skin of an entire moon, exposed to space, wrapped around a hidden ocean that may lie far below. That possibility changes everything. Because every crack may be more than a crack. Every ridge may be more than a ridge. Every reddish band may be a clue to how the surface and the deep interior might communicate. Imagine walking beside one of these long fractures. The ground is uneven beneath you. The pale ice gives way to darker reddish-brown material, spread along the line like dust caught in a wound. The crack continues ahead, disappearing over the curve of the horizon. Jupiter hangs above it, enormous and silent, as if its gravity has written this mark into the surface. There is no sound, but there is a kind of rhythm here, a rhythm of orbit, a rhythm of pulling and releasing, a rhythm of stress passing through ice. Europa circles Jupiter again and again. It is not alone in this motion. Nearby moons also tug on it, helping keep its orbit slightly stretched rather than perfectly circular. Because of that, Europa's distance from Jupiter changes subtly during its path. Sometimes it is pulled a little more, sometimes a little less. The result is a slow flexing. The moon is gently squeezed and relaxed, again, and again, and again. Not like a heartbeat in a living body, but like a deep mechanical breath moving through a frozen world. This flexing may help create heat inside Europa. It may also place stress on the icy shell, helping form cracks, ridges, and shifting patterns across the surface. So when we look at the red lines, we are not only seeing color, we are seeing the visible trace of invisible forces. Gravity leaves no footprint you can hold in your hand, but on Europa, it may leave marks in ice. The reddish color itself is another part of the puzzle. The surface is bombarded by charged particles trapped in Jupiter's magnetic field. These particles can break apart molecules and change surface materials. Salts or compounds that may have come from within the ice, or perhaps from a deeper source, can be altered over time. The exact chemistry is still being studied, but the color tells us that Europa's surface is not just plain, clean ice. It is ice mixed with history, ice touched by radiation, ice marked by materials that may have moved, reacted, or changed. And if some of those materials are connected in any way to the ocean below, then the surface becomes a message from a place we cannot yet reach. That is why scientists care so deeply about these cracks. They are not simply beautiful. They may reveal whether the ice shell is active. They may show places where the surface has been renewed. They may point to regions where material from below came closer to the top, or where surface material could have been carried downward. For a moon like Europa, this matters. An ocean sealed beneath ice could be isolated. It could be hidden away forever, separated from the surface by many miles of frozen shell. But an ocean connected to the ice above, even slowly, even rarely, becomes more interesting. Because life, as we understand it, is not only about water. It is also about exchange, energy moving from one place to another, chemicals mixing, materials cycling. A world where nothing ever changes is less promising than a world where the surface, the ocean, and the rocky interior may interact. This is one of the great questions of Europa. Is the hidden ocean sealed away completely? Or does the ice sometimes open, shift, and carry material between the surface and the deep? We do not know yet, but the cracks keep asking. As you continue across the surface, the landscape becomes stranger. Some areas look like broken plates that have been rearranged, almost as if pieces of ice once floated apart and froze into a new pattern. These regions are often described as chaotic terrain, places where the surface looks disrupted, jumbled, and complex. For our journey, we can imagine them as frozen puzzles. Pieces of a surface that did not remain still. Blocks of ice tilted, shifted, and locked again. A memory of movement preserved in silence. This kind of terrain invites the mind downward. If the surface has been disrupted, what caused it? Was there warmer ice below? Was there slush? Was there water closer to the surface in the past? Could the hidden ocean have influenced the frozen ground above? Every answer opens another question. And that is what makes Europa so powerful as a sleep journey. It does not shout. It does not need explosions, monsters, or impossible claims. It simply offers a quiet chain of clues, each one leading deeper. A red crack leads to moving ice. Moving ice leads to tidal forces. Tidal forces lead to heat. Heat leads to liquid water. Liquid water leads to chemistry. And chemistry leads to the oldest question of all. Could life exist somewhere else? The surface remains silent beneath the black sky. Jupiter continues to turn above the horizon, its bands moving slowly in the distance. The sun is small, the stars are sharp, and the ice beneath your feet may be older than human history, yet younger in appearance than many other ancient moons. Europa is frozen, but perhaps not dead. Its ice may be still on the timescale of a single night, but alive with change across millions of years. Not alive biologically, not in the way a forest is alive, but active, responsive, shaped by forces that continue to work beneath and around it. That is why the phrase, living ice, feels almost right, as long as we understand it gently. The ice is not breathing like a creature, but it may move, it may crack, it may heal, it may carry messages from the hidden ocean below. And as we stand among these long red lines, we begin to sense the next layer of the journey waiting underneath us. The surface has shown us its clues. Now the question becomes deeper. If the ice has moved, what is it moving over? If the cracks have opened, what lies below them? If Europa's outer shell is only the cover, then somewhere beneath it must be the page we have been waiting to read. The hidden ocean. Dark, salty, ancient, and sealed beneath the ice. Beneath Europa's ice, the journey becomes harder to imagine. On the surface, at least there is something to see. A horizon, a sky, Jupiter hanging above the frozen plains, long reddish lines stretching across the moon, pale ridges, broken ice, and the quiet marks of a world shaped by gravity. But the ocean beneath Europa is different. It is not visible from space. It does not shine blue through clouds. It does not reflect sunlight. It does not announce itself with waves. It is hidden below a shell of ice, sealed away from the open universe, resting in darkness under a frozen roof that may be many miles thick. And yet, this hidden ocean may be the most important part of Europa. Without it, Europa would be beautiful, but perhaps not so mysterious. It would be another icy moon in the outer solar system, bright and cold, shaped by ancient forces. But with an ocean beneath its surface, Europa becomes something far more interesting. It becomes a world where water may exist in the dark. A world where the surface is frozen, but the inside may still move. A world where the question of life does not begin under sunlight, but beneath ice. Imagine the ocean now, not as a blue sea under a summer sky, not as a place with beaches, tides, clouds, or rain. Europa's ocean, if we could enter it, would be an ocean without weather. No sunrise would brighten its surface. No moon would lay a silver path across its waves. No storms would gather on the horizon. No birds would cross above it. No coast would receive its water. There may be no open surface at all. Only ice above, water below, stone somewhere far beneath, and darkness between them. This is one of the strangest ideas in planetary science. An ocean that covers an entire world, but never touches the sky. On Earth, we think of oceans as open things. They breathe with the atmosphere. They absorb sunlight. They exchange heat with clouds and wind. They move in tides under the pull of the moon. They shape weather, coastlines, and life. But Europa's ocean would be enclosed. A sea inside a moon, a hidden layer between ice and rock. To reach it, you would not sail outward. You would descend. Down through the frozen surface. Down through blue-white ice. Down through cracks, trapped bubbles, and ancient layers. Down until the solid shell finally gives way to liquid water. That moment, if it could ever be experienced, would be one of the most extraordinary thresholds in the solar system. Above you, the universe would disappear. Jupiter would disappear. The stars would disappear. The sun would become only a memory. And below you, in the darkness, an alien ocean would begin. Scientists believe Europa's ocean may be salty, perhaps similar in some broad ways to Earth's oceans, though its exact chemistry is still unknown. The salts and compounds on the surface may offer clues, but the true nature of the water beneath the ice remains hidden. Is it rich in minerals? Is it chemically active? Does it touch the rocky interior below? Does material from the surface ever make its way down? Does material from the ocean ever rise upward into the ice? These questions matter because an ocean alone is not enough. Water is important, but water by itself does not guarantee life. A world also needs the right chemistry. It needs a source of energy. It needs change, movement, and interaction. On Earth, life depends on energy flowing through environments. Sunlight powers most surface life. Chemical energy powers life in the deep ocean, especially near places where water and rock interact. That is why Europa's possible rocky seafloor matters so much. If the ocean reaches down to rock, then water may be able to interact with minerals. Chemical reactions could occur there. Heat from the interior, perhaps created in part by tidal flexing, could help drive slow processes deep below the ice. No one knows whether this is enough for life. No one knows whether Europa's ocean is active in the right way, but it is enough to make us wonder. And sometimes, in science, wonder begins with a simple combination: water, rock, energy, time. Europa may have all four. Not on the surface, where radiation is harsh and temperatures are extreme, but below, in the hidden sea. Picture that ocean spreading around the entire moon. Because Europa is smaller than Earth, its ocean would curve tightly around the world, wrapped beneath the ice like a dark, moving shell. The pressure would be immense, the cold would be profound, the darkness would be complete. And yet, it may not be still. It may move slowly, shaped by heat, rotation, and the pull of Jupiter. It may circulate beneath the ice. It may press upward into cracks. It may exchange material with the shell above in ways that are slow, difficult, and not yet fully understood. The ocean may have existed for a very long time, perhaps billions of years, long enough for chemistry to unfold slowly, long enough for the moon to change, long enough for the question of life to become meaningful, even if the answer remains unknown. This is the difference between Europa and a simple frozen rock. Europa may have had time, not just a brief pocket of liquid water, not just a temporary melt, but a persistent ocean hidden below ice across deep time. On Earth, time has always been one of life's greatest partners. Life did not appear as forests, animals, and mines all at once. It began in simpler forms, in environments we are still trying to understand, and changed over billions of years. If Europa has had a stable ocean for a very long time, then the question becomes more powerful. Not, is there a little water? But, what has that water been doing? Has it touched rock? Has it mixed with chemicals from the surface? Has it been warmed from below? Has it created places where energy flows in useful ways? Could tiny forms of life, if they ever began, survive in a world without sunlight? These are not questions with easy answers. They are quiet questions, deep questions, questions suited to a moon like Europa. As we imagine hovering just above that hidden ocean, the scale of it becomes peaceful rather than frightening. There is no wind here, no crashing surf, no thunder, only the idea of water moving in darkness beneath a ceiling of ice. The ocean does not need to be bright to be important. It does not need to be warm like Earth's tropical seas. It does not need islands, coral reefs, or sunlight. It only needs to hold the right possibilities. And Europa, more than almost any other world we know, seems to gather those possibilities beneath its surface. The ice above protects the ocean from space. Jupiter's gravity may help warm the moon from within. The rocky interior may provide minerals. The surface may create chemical compounds under radiation. And somewhere, perhaps, there may be a way for these ingredients to meet. That meeting is the heart of Europa's mystery. Not simply that there is ice, not simply that there may be water, but that the ice, ocean, rock, radiation, and gravity may all be part of one connected system. A system hidden from view. A system waiting under the frozen plains. A system waiting under the frozen plains. A system that Europa has carried silently around Jupiter for ages. And now, as our journey reaches the idea of that ocean, the moon begins to feel deeper than it looked from space. From far away, Europa was a pale dot. From orbit, it was a cracked ice world. From the surface, it was a silent, frozen plain. But beneath the ice, it becomes something else. A dark ocean world. A place where the real story is not written on the outside, but sealed below. We have followed the cracks. We have listened to the surface. We have understood that Jupiter's pull shapes this moon, in ways we cannot see directly. And now, the next question rises slowly from the depths. If Europa has an ocean beneath the ice, what keeps it liquid? How does a world so far from the sun avoid freezing completely solid? The answer is not sunlight. It is not warmth from the surface. It is something slower, stronger, and more invisible. It is the pull of Jupiter, a tidal heartbeat moving through ice, ocean, and stone. To understand Europa's hidden ocean, we have to return to Jupiter, not only as a planet in the sky, not only as the giant world turning above Europa's frozen horizon, but as a source of motion, a source of pressure, a source of invisible energy. Because Europa is far from the sun, from this distance, sunlight is weak compared with the warmth Earth receives. The surface of Europa is extremely cold, cold enough that water exposed there would freeze almost instantly and remain locked in ice. So if there is a deep ocean beneath the surface, something else must help keep it liquid. The answer begins with gravity. Jupiter is enormous, more massive than all the other planets in the solar system combined. Its gravity reaches out and holds many moons in orbit, shaping their paths and influencing their interiors. Europa is one of those moons, and it does not simply glide around Jupiter untouched. It is pulled, again and again. Every orbit, Jupiter's gravity tugs on Europa. The moon is stretched slightly as it moves through its path. The effect is not dramatic to the eye. You would not stand on the surface and watch the ground rise and fall like a wave. But deep inside the moon, over time, this repeated flexing can matter. It can create heat. This process is called tidal heating. The idea is simple, even if the physics behind it is complex. When a world is squeezed and stretched by gravity, friction and movement inside it can generate warmth. Not warmth like sunlight on your face, not warmth like a summer afternoon, but internal heat, produced slowly, from the constant pull and release of gravity. Europa is not alone in this. Nearby, Io shows the most extreme version of tidal heating. Io is pulled so intensely by Jupiter and other moons that its interior remains active, feeding powerful volcanic eruptions across its surface. Io is a world of fire. Europa is different. Its surface is ice, not lava. Its story is not written in volcanoes glowing against space. Its story may be written in water. The same great planet that helps make Io volcanic may help keep Europa's ocean from freezing completely. Not in the same way, not with the same violence, but through a quieter version of the same gravitational rhythm. Jupiter pulls. Europa bends. The orbit continues. The interior warms. Slowly, patiently, again and again. This is why the idea of a tidal heartbeat fits Europa so well. Not because Europa is alive, not because the moon has a heart in the biological sense, but because the motion repeats with a rhythm, a deep, regular pulse created by orbit and gravity. Each journey around Jupiter brings another cycle of stress, another slight change in shape, another small contribution to the energy inside the moon. Imagine holding a ball of ice in your hands. If you could gently squeeze it and release it, over and over, not enough to break it apart, but enough to bend it slightly, that motion would create internal stress. Now imagine that process continuing not for minutes, but for millions and billions of years. That is the kind of patience gravity has. It does not need to act quickly. It only needs to act continuously. And around Jupiter, everything is continuous. The moons do not stop. The orbits do not pause. Europa circles the giant planet in a little over 3.5 Earth days. Each orbit carries it through the same gravitational relationship again. The moon is held in an orbital pattern with its neighbors, especially Io and Ganymede, and those relationships help keep Europa's orbit slightly stretched, rather than perfectly circular. That slight stretch is important. If Europa's orbit were perfectly circular, the gravitational pull would be more constant. But because the orbit is slightly elliptical, the strength of Jupiter's pull changes as Europa moves closer and farther away. This changing pull helps flex the Moon. Closer to Jupiter, the pull is stronger. Farther away, the pull is weaker. The Moon responds. Its ice shell, ocean, and rocky interior feel that changing force. And over long ages, that response may help maintain the hidden ocean below. This is a beautiful idea because it shows that warmth does not always come from light. On Earth, we naturally connect life with the sun. Sunlight warms the surface. Plants use sunlight. Weather is shaped by solar energy. Most ecosystems are directly or indirectly tied to the light of our star. But Europa asks us to think differently. What if a world can be dark on the outside, but still have energy within? What if an ocean can survive not because it is warmed from above, but because it is stirred and heated from below and within? What if gravity, not sunlight, is the quiet force that keeps a sea alive beneath ice? This does not mean Europa is warm and comfortable. It is not. The surface is frozen. The environment around Jupiter is harsh. The ice shell is thick. The ocean, if it exists as expected, is buried under extreme pressure and darkness. But habitability does not always require comfort. On Earth, some living things survive in places that once seemed impossible, deep beneath the ocean, in total darkness, near hydrothermal vents, inside rocks, under ice, in boiling springs, and in environments with pressure, cold, heat, or chemistry that would be hostile to humans. Life is not the same as comfort. Life is the ability to use energy, to maintain chemistry, to persist. And that is why Europa matters. If tidal heating helps keep an ocean liquid, and if that ocean touches rock below, then chemical reactions may be possible. Water interacting with rock can create interesting chemistry. Minerals can dissolve. Heat can move through the seafloor. Compounds can form, change, and circulate. This is not proof of life. It is a possible stage on which life could, in theory, have the right ingredients. A dark ocean, a rocky floor, chemical gradients, internal heat, a surface that may produce oxidants under radiation, and perhaps some way for those materials to mix over time. Europa is not giving us a simple answer. It is offering a system, a world where gravity does not merely hold a moon in orbit, but may help shape what happens beneath its ice. The more we think about Jupiter's role, the more Europa feels connected to everything around it. The ice cracks because of stress. The ocean may remain liquid because of internal heat. The chemistry may be influenced by radiation from Jupiter's magnetic environment. The orbit is shaped by Jupiter and neighboring moons. Europa is not an isolated frozen ball. It is part of a living architecture of motion. Again, not living in the biological sense. Living in the sense of movement, interaction, exchange, force, response. And in the quiet language of planetary science, that may be enough to make a world interesting. Picture Europa from space again. It moves around Jupiter in silence. To the eye, its orbit looks smooth and graceful, but beneath that smooth motion is a constant exchange of gravitational energy. Jupiter pulls on Europa. Europa responds. Other moons help maintain the pattern. The ice bends, the interior shifts, and somewhere below the surface, the ocean may continue to exist. No sunlight reaches that ocean. No blue sky opens above it. No wind touches its surface. But Jupiter's gravity may reach it in a different way. Not as light, not as sound. As pressure, as motion, as heat. a slow force passing through the moon like a deep pulse. And this pulse may have been continuing for ages beyond imagination, before human cities, before the first writing, before the first forests on Earth, before animals walked on land. Europa may already have been circling Jupiter, bending slightly under its pull, carrying a dark ocean below its frozen face. That kind of time is difficult to hold in the mind, so we do not try to measure it all at once. We simply imagine the rhythm, orbit after orbit, pull after pull, crack after crack. The ice changes, the ocean remains, the moon continues, and now, standing on the surface in our quiet journey, we can almost feel the meaning of that hidden rhythm beneath our feet. The ground is still. The sky is black. Jupiter is enormous above the horizon. But deep below, the story may be moving. Not loudly, not quickly, but enough. Enough to keep ice from being the whole story. Enough to suggest that below the frozen shell, water may have endured. Enough to make Europa one of the most compelling ocean worlds we know. The tidal heartbeat does not answer the question of life, but it unlocks the next door. It explains how a distant moon, far from the warmth of the sun, might keep a sea hidden beneath its crust. And once we understand that, the journey naturally turns downward again. We have seen the surface. We have followed the cracks. We have imagined the ocean. We have felt the pull of Jupiter shaping the moon from within. Now it is time to descend, not just to think about the ice from above, but to move through it. Slowly, layer by layer, leaving the stars behind, leaving Jupiter behind, leaving the frozen surface behind. Down into the blue darkness beneath Europa's ice. The descent begins in silence. Above us, Europa's surface stretches away in every direction, pale ice, reddish cracks, black sky, and Jupiter hanging like a giant painted world above the horizon. For a while, everything still feels open. There is space above. There are stars. There is the distant sun. There is the enormous presence of Jupiter, turning slowly in the sky. But now, our journey changes direction. We are no longer moving across the surface. We are moving down, down into the ice, down into the shell that hides Europa's deepest secret. Imagine a small light passing through a narrow opening in the frozen ground. The surface closes above us, not suddenly, not frighteningly, but gently, as if the moon itself is inviting us inward. The black sky becomes a smaller circle. Jupiter's bands become dimmer. The stars fade one by one. Then the surface is gone. There is only ice around us. At first, the ice is pale and bright, still carrying a memory of sunlight from above. It glows softly in shades of white and blue, like frozen glass. Tiny fractures run through it. Some are thin as threads, others are darker, older, filled with material that may have moved through the shell long ago. We descend slowly. There is no rush here. A world like Europa cannot be understood quickly. The ice has taken shape over immense spans of time. It has been pulled by gravity, changed by cold, altered by radiation on the surface, perhaps warmed from below, and marked by stresses we can only partly read. Every layer is a record. Every crack is a sentence. Every frozen pocket may hold a memory of movement. As we pass downward, the light from above weakens. The surface is still there, but it no longer feels near. The stars are gone now. Jupiter is gone. The black sky is gone. The familiar idea of above begins to fade into something quieter. There is only the ice. Around us, the frozen shell becomes blue, then deeper blue, then a kind of shadowed turquoise. The colors are not bright. They are muted, dreamlike, softened by depth. The deeper we go, the more the universe seems to narrow. This is not like diving into Earth's ocean. On Earth, water receives you. It moves around you. It carries sound. It holds light for a while before fading into darkness. Here, the descent begins through solid ice. A frozen world within a world. A ceiling so thick that it separates the hidden ocean from the open universe. Scientists do not yet know the exact structure of Europa's ice shell in every place. It may vary from region to region. Some models suggest it could be many miles thick. Some regions may be more fractured. Some may hold pockets of warmer ice or briny material. Some may be harder, colder, and more solid. But in this journey, we do not need to choose one exact path. We are following the idea of descent itself. A slow passage through the shell of an ocean moon. The deeper we move, the more pressure builds. The ice above becomes heavier. The silence grows more complete. The cold is no longer only a surface condition. It is everywhere, folded into the structure of the moon. Yet even here, the ice may not be perfectly still. Over long time scales, ice can flow. Under pressure, it can deform. It can bend without shattering. It can carry stress slowly from one region to another. Europa's shell may be frozen at the top, but deeper down, it could behave in more complex ways, shaped by warmth from below and the constant tidal pull of Jupiter. So as we descend, we imagine not dead ice, but ancient ice. Ice under pressure. Ice that has moved. Ice that may have opened and closed. Ice that may have carried material upward or downward through the moon's frozen skin. A thin line appears beside us, darker than the surrounding blue. It is a fracture, sealed long ago. Its edges are no longer sharp. They have been softened by time, pressure, and slow internal motion. Perhaps it once connected deeper layers to the surface. Perhaps it once carried briny material upward. Perhaps it was only a stress line that froze and healed. We cannot know. But Europa's story is full of these possibilities. The light continues to fade. Above us, the surface is now only a memory. The sky that once seemed so black and endless is gone, replaced by a deeper kind of darkness, the darkness inside a moon. This is one of the most peaceful parts of the journey. Not because the environment is gentle. It is not. Not because it is safe for a human body. It would not be. But because the imagination can move here without noise, without wind, without weather, without the restless motion of a surface world. Only downward, only deeper, only the blue silence of ice. Somewhere far above, Jupiter still turns. Its gravity still pulls on Europa. Its radiation still strikes the surface. Its moons still move in their orbital rhythm. But here, inside the ice, all of that feels distant. The forces are still present, but they arrive as pressure, stress, and memory, not as sight, not as sound. As the descent continues, the ice changes again. The upper shell may be rigid and brittle, but deeper layers could be warmer, more flexible, and more capable of slow motion. Here, the boundary between frozen and flowing becomes less familiar. On Earth, we often imagine ice as hard and still, but ice under pressure and time can move like a very slow river. It can fold, it can stretch, it can creep. It can preserve ancient bubbles and erase old boundaries. It can be both solid and patient. Europa's ice may be patient in that way. A shell that seems motionless during a single moment, but changes across ages. The cracks on the surface were the visible signs. Here, below the surface, we imagine the hidden process. The moon flexes. The ice responds. The ocean waits below. Layer by layer, the world grows darker. The blue becomes deeper. The small light moving with us becomes more important now. It reveals only a short distance ahead. The ice reflects it softly, then swallows it. No horizon exists here. No distant landmark. No sky. No surface. Only depth. And with depth comes the feeling that we are passing through time as much as space. Every mile of ice may represent a history of freezing, cracking, shifting, and sealing. Some layers may have formed slowly from the top. Others may have been disturbed from below. Some may contain salts. Others may contain traces of chemistry changed by radiation at the surface and buried later. If Europa's shell allows exchange, then this ice may be more than a barrier. It may be a bridge, a difficult bridge, a slow bridge, but a bridge between the surface and the ocean. That idea is important, because for Europa to be truly interesting as a possible habitat, the ocean below may need ingredients from more than one place. The rocky seafloor could provide minerals and chemical energy. The surface could provide oxidants and altered compounds created by radiation. The ice shell, if it moves and mixes over time, could help connect those worlds. Surface, ice, ocean, rock. Each layer different. Each layer part of the same moon. We pass another region where the ice looks clouded, filled with tiny trapped shapes. They might be pockets of brine in our imagination, or old bubbles, or cloudy bands where the ice formed under changing conditions. The exact reality is unknown, but the feeling is clear. This is not empty ice. It is a frozen environment with structure, with layers, with history. The descent becomes slower now, not because anything blocks the way, but because this part of the journey deserves slowness. Above us was everything visible. Below us is everything hidden. And between them is this thick blue silence. We are inside the question. What lies beneath Europa's ice? The answer is no longer far away in space. It is below. Somewhere under the remaining shell, the ice may begin to change. Perhaps the temperature rises slightly. Perhaps the pressure transforms the way the ice behaves. Perhaps fractures become less brittle and more fluid. Perhaps salt lowers the freezing point in certain regions. Perhaps the boundary between ice and ocean is not perfectly clean, but complex, layered, and uneven. The last part of the descent feels like moving toward a threshold. The ice around us grows darker. The light ahead seems to disappear more quickly. The sense of weight above becomes immense. Europa's surface is now far overhead, sealed away behind miles of frozen shell. Jupiter, so enormous from the surface, is no longer visible at all. The giant planet is still there, still pulling, still shaping the moon, but it has become an unseen force. And then, slowly, the ice begins to give way. Not suddenly, not like a wall breaking open, but gradually, as solid becomes less certain. The frozen blue around us softens into darkness. The surface of the hidden ocean appears not as a shining blue sea, but as a black and silent boundary, waiting below the ice. There is no sky reflected in it, no sunlight on waves, no sound of surf. Only dark water beneath a roof of ancient ice. For a moment, we pause at the edge. Above is the frozen shell we have crossed. Below is the ocean that made Europa famous, a sea that may have existed for billions of years, a sea that may wrap around the entire moon, a sea that has never seen sunrise. This is the doorway beneath the ice. And now, gently, without fear, without urgency, we pass through it, into Europa's hidden ocean. The ocean beneath Europa does not welcome us with light. There is no blue surface glittering beneath the sun, no silver path of moonlight, no clouds reflected on moving water, no horizon where sea and sky meet. There is only darkness, a darkness deeper than night, a darkness sealed beneath ice. As we enter Europa's hidden ocean, the first thing to let go of is the idea of an ocean as we know it on Earth. Our oceans are open to the sky. They breathe with the atmosphere. They receive sunlight, rain, wind, and the pull of the moon. They are crossed by ships, stirred by storms, warmed in some places, and frozen in others. Europa's ocean, if it is as scientists believe, is different. It is an ocean without weather, an ocean without sunrise, an ocean without a beach. Above it is not air, but ice, a thick frozen ceiling stretching around the entire moon. Below it, far down in the darkness, may be rock. Between ice and stone lies the hidden sea, wrapped inside Europa like a secret the moon has carried for billions of years. We drift slowly into the water. There is no current strong enough to rush the journey, no sound we can truly hear, only the feeling of depth, pressure, and stillness. The water around us is imagined as dark and cold, but not meaningless. It may be salty. It may contain dissolved minerals. It may move slowly in patterns shaped by heat, rotation, and the gentle flexing caused by Jupiter's gravity. It may be old beyond human understanding. On Earth, darkness often feels like emptiness. But deep in an ocean, darkness can be full. Full of pressure, full of hidden motion, full of chemistry, full of time, and perhaps, in the right places, full of possibility. The ceiling of ice above is now distant, but it still matters. It separates this ocean from space, protecting it from the harsh radiation around Jupiter. It also hides the ocean from view, making Europa one of the most mysterious worlds we know. We can study the surface. We can measure the moon's gravity and magnetic signals. We can send spacecraft to fly by and gather clues. But the ocean itself remains mostly unseen. It is not a place humans have visited. It is not a place any spacecraft has entered. It is a place built from evidence, models, measurements, and careful scientific imagination. And that makes the journey feel even quieter. We are moving through a world that may be real, but is still beyond direct human touch. Below us, somewhere in the darkness, there may be a seafloor. This is one of the most important parts of Europa's story. If the ocean simply floated between layers of ice, it would still be fascinating. But if the water reaches down to a rocky interior, then another possibility appears. Water and rock may interact. On Earth, this kind of interaction can be powerful. Deep below our oceans, seawater seeps into cracks in the crust, becomes heated, reacts with minerals, and returns carrying chemicals that can support entire ecosystems. Around hydrothermal vents, life exists without sunlight. It does not depend on green plants or warm beaches. It depends on chemistry. Europa may not have the same conditions. We must be careful. We do not know if Europa has active hydrothermal vents. We do not know how much heat reaches its seafloor. We do not know whether the chemistry is right for life. But the possibility of water touching rock is one reason this hidden ocean matters so much. Because it gives Europa depth. Not only physical depth, but scientific depth. An ice shell above. A salty ocean within. A rocky floor below. And Jupiter's gravity moving through it all like a quiet force. As we drift deeper, imagine the water becoming heavier around us. The pressure increases with every mile. The ice above feels farther away. The idea of the surface becomes faint, almost dreamlike. Somewhere far overhead, Jupiter still fills Europa's sky. But here, in the ocean, there is no sky at all. This ocean has never seen clouds. It has never watched a storm gather. It has never turned gold at sunset. It may have moved in darkness since long before humans looked up and named the stars. That thought is calming in a strange way. There are places in the universe that continue without needing to be seen. Worlds turn, oceans move, ice cracks, gravity pulls. Chemistry unfolds. All of it happens whether anyone is watching or not. Europa's ocean may be one of those places. Quiet, hidden, patient. We continue downward. The water is black beyond the reach of our small light. When the light touches floating particles, they drift slowly, like dust in a dark room. The beam fades quickly, swallowed by the water. There is no distant view, no clear landmark, only a small circle of visibility, surrounded by endless dark. And yet, this darkness is not empty. It is the darkness where the greatest question waits. If life exists here, it would have to be life that does not need sunlight. It would have to survive under ice, in pressure, in cold, using whatever chemical energy the ocean and seafloor might provide. It might be microscopic. It might be rare. It might be nothing like the life we imagine when we picture animals, plants, or oceans on Earth. Or there may be no life at all. Only water, minerals, darkness, and time. That possibility must remain part of the story too. Science does not begin by deciding what it wants to find. It begins by asking what the evidence allows. Europa is not exciting because we know what is there. Europa is exciting because the evidence points to a place worth asking about. A place with water. A place with energy. A place with chemistry. A place hidden beneath ice. The ocean continues around the moon, invisible beneath the shell. Above different regions, the ice may be thicker or thinner, more broken or more solid, more mixed or more still. Below different regions, the seafloor may vary as well. There may be plains of rock, slopes, cracks, mineral deposits, and perhaps places where heat rises more strongly than elsewhere. We do not know, but we can imagine the scale. A moon-wide sea in total darkness. No continents dividing it. No open atmosphere above it. No sunlight guiding its rhythms. Only the quiet pull of Jupiter and the hidden architecture of the moon itself. The farther we drift, the more Europa becomes a kind of mirror. Not because it looks like Earth. It does not. But because it reminds us what Earth taught us, that life can be persistent, surprising, and deeply connected to water. It reminds us that oceans do not need to be warm and blue at the surface to matter. They can be dark. They can be sealed away. They can be difficult to reach. And still, they can change the way we understand a world. For a long time, humans looked for life by looking for places like Earth on the outside. A blue planet, a comfortable distance from a star. Air, clouds, land, and open water. Europa suggests another kind of place. A world that looks frozen from the outside, but may hold its most important environment within. A world where habitability, if it exists, is not on the surface. It is hidden, protected, buried. The dark ocean is not the end of the journey. It is the deepest room in the house, the quietest chamber of the moon, the place where all the clues have been leading. The cracks above, the moving ice, the pull of Jupiter, the tidal heat, the possible chemistry. They all meet here, in this silent water beneath the frozen shell. And now the question becomes gentle, but impossible to ignore. Could anything live here? Not monsters, not cities, not glowing creatures from imagination, but something small, something simple. Something patient enough for darkness. Something that could use chemistry the way plants use sunlight. Something that would prove that life is not only a story of warm planets and bright skies, but perhaps also a story of hidden oceans beneath ice. We do not answer yet. We only drift. The dark ocean surrounds us. The ice waits above. The rocky floor may lie below. And in the silence between them, Europa keeps its deepest question alive. Could life exist here? That is the question that follows us into Europa's dark ocean. Not because we expect to find anything familiar, not because Europa looks like Earth, not because there are forests beneath the ice, or fish moving through alien water, or glowing cities hidden under the frozen crust. The real question is quieter than that. Could life exist here, in its simplest form? Could chemistry organize itself in the darkness? Could a tiny organism, too small to see with the naked eye, survive in an ocean that has never known sunlight? Could Europa be a place where life, if it ever began, learned to live beneath ice? To ask this question carefully, we must begin with what life needs as we understand it. On Earth, life needs liquid water. It needs chemical ingredients. It needs a source of energy, and it needs an environment stable enough for those ingredients to interact over time. Europa may have some of these things. It may have a global ocean of liquid water. It may have salts and minerals. It may have chemical compounds created or altered on the surface by Jupiter's radiation. It may have a rocky seafloor far below, where water and minerals could interact. And it may have energy from tidal heating, produced as Jupiter's gravity flexes the moon over and over again. These are not proof of life. They are ingredients. And ingredients are not the same as a finished recipe. A kitchen can contain flour, water, salt, and heat, but that does not mean bread has already been made. In the same way, a world can contain water, chemistry, and energy without necessarily becoming alive. That is why we must speak gently about Europa. It is not a world where life has been found. It is a world where life can be seriously wondered about. And that difference matters. The surface of Europa is not friendly to life as we know it. It is extremely cold. It has almost no atmosphere. It is exposed to strong radiation from Jupiter's magnetic environment. Any organism sitting openly on the surface would face conditions far harsher than almost anywhere on Earth. So if life exists on Europa, the surface is probably not the place to look. The better place to imagine is below, far below. Under the radiation, under the freezing surface, under the miles of ice, in the ocean. There, the environment would still be extreme, but extreme does not always mean impossible. Earth has taught us this again and again. In our own deep oceans, sunlight disappears after only a short distance. Far below the surface, the water becomes cold, dark, and pressurized. For a long time, people assumed that life in such places would be sparse or impossible. But when scientists explored the deep ocean, they found ecosystems living far from sunlight. Near hydrothermal vents, hot, mineral-rich water rises from the seafloor. Around those vents, life uses chemical energy. Microbes form the foundation. Other organisms depend on them. Entire communities exist in darkness, powered not by the sun, but by chemistry. This discovery changed the way we think about life. It showed that sunlight is not the only possible source of biological energy. It showed that oceans can be alive in places where the sky never reaches. And it made worlds like Europa much more interesting. If Earth can support life in deep, dark, chemically active environments, then perhaps another ocean world could support something simple too, if the right conditions exist. But Europa is not Earth. This is important. Europa's ocean may be different in temperature, pressure, chemistry, and energy. Its seafloor may not have the same kind of activity as Earth's. The ingredients may be present, but separated. The energy may be too weak. The chemistry may not be favorable. The ocean may be less active than we hope. There are many unknowns. And in a good mystery, the unknowns should not be hidden. They should be respected. Because what makes Europa beautiful is not certainty. It is possibility. Imagine a small pocket of water near the rocky floor of Europa's ocean. There is no light, no plants, no oxygen-rich air, only dark water moving slowly over stone. Minerals dissolve. Heat rises faintly from below. Chemical gradients form. Differences in concentration, energy, and composition. On Earth, life can use gradients like these. Life is very good at finding differences and turning them into survival. A difference in heat, a difference in chemistry, a difference in acidity, a difference in available energy. If Europa has places where water and rock interact, where chemicals are produced and mixed, where energy flows from one part of the environment to another, then the question becomes meaningful. Could something use that energy? Could something small survive there? Could life begin without ever seeing a star? Maybe the answer is yes. Maybe the answer is no. Maybe Europa is only an ocean of chemistry, rich and fascinating, but lifeless. Even that would still be important. Because a lifeless ocean with the ingredients for life would teach us something profound. It would show us that ingredients alone are not enough. It would help scientists understand what separates a habitable environment from a living one. And if life were ever found there, even simple microbial life, it would change the way humanity sees the universe. Not in a loud, sudden way, but in a deep way. It would mean that life is not limited to one small blue planet. It would mean that a moon far from the sun, hidden beneath ice, could still become a home for biology. It would mean that life might appear wherever water, chemistry, energy, and time come together in the right way. And then, the galaxy would feel different. Every icy moon, every hidden ocean, every distant world beneath a frozen crust would become more interesting. The question would no longer be, is Earth special because it has life? It would become, how many quiet places are carrying life where we cannot see it? But for now, Europa keeps its answer. The ocean remains hidden. The ice remains thick. The surface remains silent. And the question of life stays open. This openness is part of the calm. We do not need to force an answer tonight. We do not need to imagine creatures where there may be none. We do not need to turn Europa into fantasy. The truth is already powerful enough. A small moon around Jupiter may have a deep ocean beneath its ice. That ocean may contain more water than Earth's oceans. It may touch a rocky floor. It may receive energy from the slow pull of gravity. It may contain chemistry shaped by both the surface above and the interior below. And somewhere in that darkness, the conditions may be close enough to life that we cannot ignore the possibility. That is enough. Enough to send spacecraft. Enough to study the cracks. Enough to map the ice. Enough to ask the same question from many angles. How thick is the shell? How salty is the ocean? What chemicals exist on the surface? Do materials move between the surface and the sea? Does the ocean touch rock? Is there enough energy? Is there enough time? These are the questions scientists ask, and each one is a step closer to understanding Europa. Not as a dream, not as a myth, but as a real world. A real moon, a real ocean candidate. A place where the search for life becomes careful, patient, and deeply human. Because to search for life elsewhere is also to understand life here. It asks us what life really is. Is it rare? Is it common? Is it fragile? Is it persistent? Does it need sunlight? Does it need a planet like Earth? Or can it begin in places we once thought too cold, too dark, too distant? Europa does not answer in words. It answers with clues, with red cracks across ice, with a possible ocean beneath, with gravity's slow heat, with a surface shaped by radiation, with a hidden connection between water, rock, and time. And perhaps that is why this moon feels so peaceful to think about. It does not shout for attention. It does not glow with warmth. It does not offer easy certainty. It simply orbits Jupiter, carrying a question under ice. A question that has waited in darkness for billions of years. If life is there, it may be tiny. It may be slow. It may exist in places no light has ever touched. It may have no eyes, because there is nothing to see. It may have no need for day or night, because the ocean never sees either. It may live by chemistry, by gradients, by subtle flows of energy through water and stone. Or there may be nothing alive at all, only a dark sea moving beneath a frozen moon. Only minerals, only salt, only pressure, only time. But even then, Europa would still matter. Because the search itself expands our imagination. It teaches us that worlds are not always what they seem from the outside. A frozen surface can hide an ocean. A dark place can hold energy. A small moon can raise one of the biggest questions in science. And as we drift in the hidden ocean, we let that question remain open. Could life exist here? Somewhere beneath the ice? Somewhere near the rock? Somewhere in the deep chemical dark? We do not know yet, but humanity has already sent that question outward, not as a whisper only, not as a dream only, but as a spacecraft, a machine built to cross the darkness. A mission designed to study Europa closely, again and again, and search for the clues hidden in its ice. That mission is called Europa Clipper, and somewhere between Earth and Jupiter, it carries our questions toward the frozen moon. Somewhere far from Earth, a spacecraft is traveling toward Jupiter. It does not carry people. It does not carry a submarine to dive into Europa's ocean. It does not carry a drill that can cut through miles of ice. It carries something quieter: questions. The mission is called Europa Clipper, and it represents one of humanity's most careful attempts to understand this frozen moon. Its purpose is not to land on Europa and search directly for living things. Its purpose is more patient than that. It will study Europa again and again, flying past the moon many times, gathering clues about its surface, its ice shell, its ocean, and its ability to support the conditions life might need. That distinction is important. Europa Clipper is not going to confirm alien life. It is going to ask whether Europa could be habitable, whether the moon has the right ingredients, whether the ocean is real and global, whether the ice shell is active, whether material from the surface and the ocean may exchange over time, whether this small moon around Jupiter is truly one of the best places in the solar system to look for a possible environment beyond Earth where life could exist. In a way, Europa Clipper is not only a spacecraft. It is a question made of metal, instruments, solar panels, mathematics, and patience. It was built on Earth, by people who will never walk on Europa's surface. People who may never touch its ice, never see Jupiter from its sky, never hear the silence of that frozen landscape. And yet, through science, they have found a way to send human curiosity across the dark. The spacecraft must travel a long distance. Earth and Jupiter are not close neighbors. They move around the sun on different paths, separated by hundreds of millions of miles, depending on where they are in their orbits. To reach Jupiter, Europa Clipper follows a carefully planned journey, using gravity and time rather than brute force alone. There is something peaceful about that. Even spacecraft must obey the patient rules of the solar system. They do not simply fly in straight lines like arrows. They follow curves. They use planetary gravity. They wait for alignments. They move through space in long arcs, guided by physics that has shaped worlds since before life existed on Earth. And while Europa Clipper travels, Europa continues to orbit Jupiter. The moon does not know it is being visited. It keeps moving through Jupiter's magnetic field. It keeps showing its cracked face to space. It keeps its ocean hidden. The ice does not open for us. The answer does not rise to meet us. We have to go carefully. When Europa Clipper arrives in the Jovian system, it will not orbit Europa directly for a long time. That would be difficult because the radiation environment near Jupiter is intense. Instead, the spacecraft will orbit Jupiter and make repeated close flybys of Europa, passing near the moon again and again, each time gathering another piece of the puzzle. One pass may study the surface in detail. Another may measure the moon's magnetic environment. Another may help understand the thickness and structure of the ice. Another may look for materials on the surface that could reveal something about the ocean below. Little by little, flyby by flyby, the mission will build a deeper picture of Europa. This is how science often works, not with one single dramatic answer, but with layers of evidence. A measurement here, an image there, a signal that supports one model, a result that challenges another, a map that reveals patterns, a spectrum that hints at chemistry, a gravity measurement that tells a story about what lies beneath. Europa Clipper will carry instruments designed to study the moon from many angles. Cameras will examine the surface. Spectrometers will study the composition of materials. Ice-penetrating radar will help probe the shell. Magnetometers and plasma instruments will help investigate the ocean and the environment around the moon. Each instrument is like a different sense. One sees. One listens for magnetic clues. One feels gravity. One reads chemistry. One searches beneath the surface. Together, they allow the spacecraft to approach Europa not as a fantasy, but as a real world with measurable properties. And that is what makes this mission so powerful for our journey. The mystery of Europa is beautiful, but it is not only a dream. It is a scientific mystery, a place we can study, a place we can map, a place we can return to with better questions. Imagine the spacecraft passing over Europa's surface. Below it, the ice stretches in pale plains and red-brown fractures. Jupiter fills the background, enormous and banded. The spacecraft moves quickly, silently, catching sunlight on its panels as it crosses over a world no human has ever touched. For a short time, Europa is close. Then the spacecraft moves away again, following its wide orbit around Jupiter. And later, it returns. Again and again. Each pass is brief, but each pass matters. Like opening a book for only a few moments at a time, reading one paragraph, closing it, and returning later to read the next. Europa's book is written in ice. Its language is gravity, chemistry, radiation, magnetism, and motion. Europa Clipper is our attempt to learn that language. It may tell us that the ocean is more complex than we imagined. It may show that the ice shell is thicker or thinner in certain places. It may find surface materials that suggest exchange with the ocean below. It may reveal places where the surface has changed. It may help scientists decide where a future mission might one day land. And perhaps, many years from now, after Europa Clipper has done its work, another mission may follow. A lander. A probe. Maybe, one day far in the future, a machine designed to touch the ice itself. But tonight, we stay with the mission that is already carrying the question outward. Europa Clipper does not need to solve everything to matter. It only needs to bring us closer, closer to understanding the ice, closer to understanding the ocean, closer to understanding whether Europa is merely a frozen moon or something more, an ocean world with the conditions that might make life possible. Far from Earth, the spacecraft continues its path. Behind it is the blue planet where the question began. Ahead of it is Jupiter, turning in darkness. And near Jupiter, small and bright, Europa waits with its ocean hidden below. The spacecraft carries no certainty, only instruments, only patience, only the quiet determination to ask the next question better than we asked it before. And that is enough. Because sometimes, the greatest journeys do not begin with answers. They begin with a moon, a crack in the ice, a hidden ocean, and the courage to wonder what lies beneath. Now, after drifting through the hidden ocean, after imagining the dark water beneath Europa's ice, after following the question of life into the deepest part of this frozen moon, we begin to rise again, slowly, gently, without needing to answer everything. The ocean remains below us, wide and silent, wrapped around the moon beneath its frozen shell. It does not reveal whether anything lives there. It does not show us its full chemistry. It does not tell us how warm its seafloor may be or how often materials from the surface might reach the water below. It keeps its secrets, and that is part of its beauty. We rise through the darkness, leaving behind the imagined sea. The water grows colder near the ice above. The blackness begins to soften into deep blue. The ceiling of ice appears again, first as a shadow, then as a pale boundary, then as the beginning of the frozen shell. We pass upward through it, layer by layer. The liquid darkness gives way to solid blue, The blue deepens, then lightens. The ice surrounds us again, quiet and ancient, holding within it the memory of stress, pressure, cracks, and time. Somewhere far below, the ocean continues moving in darkness. Somewhere far above, Jupiter continues turning in space. Between them is the ice, the bridge, the barrier, the record. As we rise, we pass the same kinds of hidden features we imagined on the way down. Sealed fractures, cloudy layers, darker bands, places where the shell may have shifted over long ages. Every part of this ice could carry information. Every layer could help scientists understand whether Europa's ocean has been isolated or connected, quiet or active, simple or complex. But we do not need to read all of it tonight. Tonight, it is enough to know that the surface was not the whole story. The frozen moon had depth. The cracks had meaning. The silence had layers. Higher now, the ice grows paler. A faint glow returns, not bright sunlight, but a soft reminder that there is still a surface above. The idea of the sky slowly comes back. Jupiter, the stars, and the distant sun are waiting beyond the frozen roof. The final layer of ice passes around us, and then we emerge. The surface of Europa spreads out once more beneath the black sky. The reddish cracks run toward the horizon. The frozen plains lie silent, and above everything, Jupiter hangs huge and calm, its bands slowly turning, its storms drifting across a world of clouds. For a moment, we simply stand there, on the ice, above the ocean, beneath Jupiter. The journey has changed the way the surface looks. At first, it seemed empty, a cold place, a frozen shell, a pale moon far from the sun. But now, after imagining what may lie below, every crack feels like a clue. Every ridge feels like a question. Every quiet plain feels like the roof of a hidden sea. Europa is still silent, but it no longer feels simple. It feels deep. It feels patient. It feels like a world waiting to be understood. The sun is small in the black sky. Its light touches the ice with a faint, distant glow. The stars remain steady, sharp, and cold. There is no wind to move across the plain, no waves to hear, no clouds to watch, no birds, no weather, no sound of life. And yet, Europa does not feel empty. It feels unfinished. Not unfinished as a world, but unfinished in our understanding. There is still more to learn, more to measure, more to ask. Europa Clipper is on its way to ask those questions more carefully. Future missions may someday ask them even more closely. But the moon itself is in no hurry. It continues its orbit around Jupiter as it has for ages, carrying its ice, its cracks, and its possible ocean through the dark. This is one of the quiet lessons of space. Human questions can feel urgent to us, but worlds move slowly. They turn whether we are watching or not. They hold their histories in stone, ice, gas, and water. They wait for us to become patient enough to understand them. Europa has waited a long time. It may wait longer still. And that is all right. As we stand on the frozen surface one last time, the great question remains open beneath our feet. What lies below? Only water? Only chemistry? Only darkness and stone? Or something more? We do not know. But the mystery is now clearer than before. A moon does not need a warm surface to be interesting. An ocean does not need a sky to matter. A place does not need to look alive from the outside to become one of the most important worlds in our search for life beyond Earth. Europa teaches us to look beneath appearances, beneath ice, beneath silence, beneath the easy answer. Because sometimes, the most important part of a world is hidden. The journey is almost complete now. The ocean stays below. The ice stretches around us. Jupiter watches from the sky, and Europa continues to turn. Europa keeps turning. Around Jupiter, through darkness, through radiation, Through the long silence of the outer solar system, the small icy moon continues its path. It does not hurry. It does not reveal everything at once. It simply moves, orbit after orbit, carrying its cracked surface and its hidden ocean beneath the distant light of the sun. Jupiter turns with it. The giant planet watches over its moons with slow bands of cloud and storms that drift across an atmosphere without a solid ground. Io burns nearby. Ganymede circles in quiet strength. Callisto keeps its ancient scars. And Europa, pale and frozen, holds its mystery under ice. Tonight, we traveled there in thought. We left Earth behind. We crossed the quiet space between worlds. We watched Jupiter rise from the dark. We found Europa shining beside the giant. We stood on its frozen plains. We followed the red cracks. We imagined the living motion of ancient ice. We descended through blue silence, and beneath it all, we reached the idea of a hidden ocean, dark, salty, patient, and sealed away from the sky. We did not find a final answer, and that is okay. Some questions are meant to stay open for a while. Could life exist beneath Europa's ice? Could chemistry become biology in a sea that has never seen the sun? Could a frozen moon far from Earth hold one of the most important secrets in the solar system? We do not know yet, but somewhere out there, a spacecraft carries our questions toward Jupiter, and somewhere beyond the warmth of home, Europa continues to wait. Quiet, bright, frozen, deep. As you rest now, imagine that small moon moving through the darkness, with Jupiter above it and an unseen ocean below. The ice remains still. The ocean remains hidden. The stars remain silent, and Europa keeps turning.